Hello, and welcome to lesson 2 of our Mastering Excel as a Healthcare Professional course on Thummim NG. My name is Kubiat Morgan, and I will be your instructor for this session. So, while we have already explored the basic concepts in Excel and how to enter data into our Excel sheet, also how we can format that data, we would go on to see how we can visualize data by using graphs or charts in Excel. A chart is a graphical representation of data. Excel gives you a plethora of different chart types that you can create to visualize your data, from bar charts to line charts to scattered graphs. The list goes on and on. We are going to see how we can transform this simple data into a more appealing graphical representation using charts. Right now, I have a sample data here for a hospital annual delivery. So it simply just outlines the number of deliveries in the particular hospital for each year. So we're going to convert this into a chart. Now, the most straightforward and simplest way to create a chart in Excel is by simply highlighting the data. Remember, we talked about actions in Excel. It involves two fronts: selecting or highlighting the data and then performing the action on the highlighted data. So in this case, we are going to highlight everything from the label of our table down to the end, and what we have selected here is a range, as we've discussed earlier, from A2 through B17. Once the selection is done, all we simply do is head over to the Insert tab. When we click on the Insert tab, this would open up the Insert ribbon. If you're using a Windows system, this might vary slightly, but you would still have this option available here, where we have a number of charts options here, from the recommended charts to different chart types, maps, pivot charts, sparklines. However, if your Excel version is between 2010 and 27, you might experience something a little different, but you still should be able to add or insert charts through the Insert ribbon. Now, the very first type of charts we see here is recommended charts. Now, this is Microsoft Excel's way of analyzing the data that you just highlighted to recommend charts, possible charts that would fit or suit that data. So we can actually pick any one of these data. I'll just go ahead to pick the clustered column. And as you can see, we have a simple graph laid out for us. Now, while this is a very straightforward way to insert our charts or graph, let's explore a few other options that we could use to insert a chart. So I'm just going to click on this and delete it. And I'm going to go ahead to highlight our data one more time. And then I head over to the Insert ribbon. And let's browse through a couple of charts or the options that Excel gives us to create charts. First, we have here is column. We can see that we can create from 2D column graphs to 3D column graphs to bar graphs. Excel even gives us options to create different types of line graphs in 2D and in 3D. Excel also gives us options to create pie charts in 2D and in 3D, as well as the donut chart. We also have options to create histograms, scattered plots, bubble graphs, and so on and so forth. So it is left to you to figure out what works best for your data. And now we'll move on to creating a basic 2D column graph. From a quick look at our column graph, we can notice that right now Excel is plotting both data that's both of our information, both columns here on the y-axis. Now this might not be what we want to visualize. We might want to visualize the year at the horizontal axis and the delivery values on the vertical axis. Let's format this chart to suit our goals for this lesson. I want to draw your attention to a few options that popped up on our tab bar, our menu bar over here. Now notice that a new addition was made to the tabs. We have chart design and the format tabs. Now this pops up so you can toggle any of this. The chart design tab is where you can edit the layout of your tabs, add more elements to your chart and the likes. And then the format tab would be where you have options to style the looks of your chart. Let's try to adjust this chart to look or to represent our data better. So we're going to try to change the data on our horizontal axis to the year, while the vertical axis can better represent the deliveries. To do this, we can either head over to the chart ribbon or the chart design ribbon and click on select data, or you can right click on the chart and click on select data. Whichever one you do is going to take you to the same location. So I'm going to select our chart and then click on select data. This is going to open up a dialog window that you can adjust the data. So chart data range just shows the range of the data that we just selected, and the range is A to, the dollar sign is just used to separate or to begin each letter, unlike the way we used to write it before. We would just write just the letter and then that's the column letter label and then the row number. Here in the chart data range, you notice that the first item you see here is the name of the sheet that we are addressing, and in this case we are on sheet 1. The next thing you notice is an exclamation mark to separate the name of the sheet from the range that we are trying to specify. And then you notice that each label, each row or column label is preceded by a dollar sign. So our range starts from A to, so that would translate to $A, $2, and then a colon that separates each range. This is what we meant by through when we write to specify a range, A2 through B17. But when we are writing it in the chart data range, we'll be specifying it as $B, $17. Now, if you look at the legend entries here, this refers to the data that is plotted on the vertical axis. Currently, we have the year and the deliveries plotted on the vertical axis, but that is not what we're looking for. We are looking to plot the year on the horizontal axis and deliveries on the vertical axis. So if you had more data points and you wanted to plot more data on the vertical axis, you would simply use the plus button here and add an extra data point. But that is not the case with what we have now. We are simply going to delete the year, so we have only deliveries plotted on the vertical axis, and then we would proceed to plotting the year on the horizontal axis by specifying the range in the horizontal axis labels field here. So another thing to note is the name field here. This is what specifies the label or the title of the particular data that you're plotting on the y-axis. In this case, if we can see, this is specifying sheet 1 and the separator between the sheet and the range, and then this is specifying the cell B2 by writing $B, $2. And if we track that, we would see that that field is where we have deliveries. So that is how we specify the name of our field. In this case, it's already done automatically because we had already highlighted everything. So Excel figured out what the title of our data points or the title of our column was. And then we have that the Y values here are specified as the range B3, which is where our data for delivery starts, all through B17, which is where that range ends. In the horizontal axis labels field, we are going to specify the data for the data points for our horizontal axis, which we want to be the year. Now the data for the year runs from range A3, as you can see, as the first item, all through to A17. So to specify that, the very first thing we're going to do is write equal to, because that is how you specify to Excel that you're trying to write a formula. We are going to touch formulas immediately after graphs. And then you specify the name of the sheet that you're working on, which in this case is sheet 1, and then an exclamation mark to tell Excel that you have just finished specifying the sheet name, and then you use $sign to specify the label of the column or the row. So in this case, we want it to start from A to $sign. We want it to start from $sign A, $sign 2, which is the row number, all through $sign A, $sign 17. So let me go through this again. The equal to sign is just telling Excel that what you're about to type is a formula. It is not an actual value. So Excel would not try to output this value. Rather, Excel is going to do a computation to find out the range of values that you're trying to specify. Then the next thing Excel is expecting is the sheet. What is the name of the sheet that you're working with? In our case, we are working on sheet 1, as you can see at the bottom left corner here. And then we use the exclamation mark to separate the sheet from our cell number, or sorry, our cell designation or our range designation. In this case, we are going to be designating, or we are going to be specifying a range to Excel, because we want to show Excel where Excel should pick the data points for our horizontal labels from. And each label, that's each row and column designation, is preceded by a $sign. So for A2, we have $sign A, $sign 2, all through, which is the column in Excel, A17. So we write $sign A, $sign 17. And if we click OK, now that we are done, you can see that there has been some transformation on our data points. Our data horizontal axis now starts from, okay, there is a little error here. Now notice that the horizontal axis is now starting from year 2002 all through 2015. This means that there is an error in the range that we specified. So let's go back and fix it. So I'm going to head over to select data again, and then notice that what we typed here was A2, which was inclusive of the label. That is not what we want. We want it to start from A3 because A3 is where the data is. So I'll just correct that quickly to A3, and then we click OK, and we can see that our data has been better formatted. Now, another thing we can do is to change the title of this chart to what we have here. Now, there are various ways we can do that, but what's the simplest way I'm just going to do is by copying. I'm going to highlight the chart title, and using Command C if you're on Mac or Control C if you're on Windows to copy the data, I would select our chart title by double clicking it, and then Control V or Command V if you're on a Mac to paste. Now that's simply, that's the easiest way to change the title of a chart. Another thing we want to look at is we want to add some labels, especially to our bottom. We want to add a label to, since we just have a single point of data for our y-axis, there is no need to have a legend. So I can click on the legend entry and then delete it. However, we still need to specify what the data on our y-axis is and also what the data on our x-axis is to make this chart more readable. So we can head over to the chart design ribbon, and then at the far left you're going to see a button called add chart element. We click on that. Now Excel allows you to add a plethora of chart elements, from axis to axis titles to chart titles to data labels and the rest. In this case, all we are interested in right now are the axis titles. So we are going to click on the primary horizontal, and that adds the axis title control on the primary on the horizontal axis. So in the same way, I'm just going to double click on this to make edits to it. So I'm going to delete the axis title there, and I'm going to type in year as a new horizontal axis title. Now let us add a vertical axis title. So I head over, ensure that your chart is selected, because if I click out and I'm not selecting my chart, notice that we don't have the new options anymore on our ribbon, on our tabs. So ensure your chart is selected before you proceed to the chart design, and then click on add chart elements and select axis title. We're going to select primary vertical to add, and we can notice here that our axis title has been added. So all we have to do is just edit it. So I would delete the previous data that was there and then write deliveries here. So as we can see, our chart has already taken shape. One last thing we're going to do about this chart is we're going to try to change the color to better match what our theme is. So you can change your chart colors by simply coming to the chart design and selecting from any of the themes you have here. We could even pick a monochromatic theme that would match well with what we have, or you can move over to the format tab, and to your far left here you can see a drop down, that's the drop down for the chart elements, where you can specify what chart elements you want to edit or you want to format. In this case, we can select that we want to format this series or the plot area, but in this case I'll just select that we want to format the series deliveries, which is what's the content, that's the line content of the graph. And then you can come over here to either the shape fill or the shape outline to style these bars anyhow you want. So notice that when we selected series deliveries, each of the bars were highlighted so that you have a visual of what you're trying to format. So I can click on shape fill here and select, let's pick this blue accent. So we can see now that the bar has that blue accent. Just for fun, we can add an outline to it. So I'm going to click the drop down here on shape outline and select a dark blue for the outline. Now if you look a bit closely, you would realize that there is a dark blue outline on each of the bars for the series delivery. That is all we are going to touch concerning charts. You can experiment with adding different types of charts or different types of graphs, even with the 3D graphs, the pie charts, and also using the very same methods that we talked about. Edit the data and go ahead to format it so you get a lot used to it. The part 2 of this lesson is going to be on data sorting and formulas. Stay tuned.